Hadley, Jack Torowitz.
Jim Baumstark.
James Dolan.
All right, thanks, and welcome back. We are now in section C of our meeting, which is the approval section. Can I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda?
So moved. Mike Corman. Second. Jim Baumstark.
Can we take a voice vote? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Now we'll move to the approval of the January 17th, 2023 regular and executive session minutes. May I have a motion and a second to approve the regular and executive session minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Katie, can I have a roll call on this?
Corman.
Aye.
Stefani.
Aye.
Dolan.
Aye.
Baumstark.
Aye.
Jack Torowitz.
Aye.
Peggy.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye. Motion carries. And now we get to our communications section, which is the superintendent comments, but I believe Kevin's going to help us with this.
Thank you. It's a privilege, and we are excited this evening to honor Katie Schutz from ATIA, and I believe Katie is here this evening. Katie has achieved National Board Certification. She became District 34's 9th NBCT educator. We are particularly honored that our newest National Board Certified teacher is also new to District 34 this year, and we are grateful that you chose us, Katie. Katie's a teacher. More applause, the better. Katie is a teacher in our instructional life skills classroom at ATIA. It is clear as soon as you walk in her classroom that she has a natural ability to work with children, but that doesn't mean she hasn't worked extremely hard to achieve this milestone. As background for you, the National Board for Professional Teaching Standards recognizes educators across our field who dedicate 2 to 4 years to improve themselves as professionals to best support student growth. In this rigorous process, teachers think deeply about their instructional practices, engage in critical analysis of their choices, and reshape their approach to instruction. And they must pass 10 assessments. Only 3% of teachers have earned the National Board certification. And I don't know if this math checks out, but we believe Katie is 1 in a million. Katie, congratulations, and President Nelson has something to present to you.
Should I come over like here? I think they should come over here. So we get a good photo. Congratulations again, and thank you, Katie. Now we come to our audience comments section. Melanie, do we have any comments right now? Okay, so we have another session for audience comments later if anyone wants to submit a audience card to Melanie. We'll move along to our consideration of resolutions. I'm going to read the resolutions, and I'm going to ask for a motion and a second for approval. I have the 2308 personnel report, the 2309 payroll warrants report, the 2310 vendor warrants, and the 2311 destruction of board recordings. May I have a motion and a second for approval?
So moved. Mike Corman. Second. Jim Baumstark.
Can I have a roll call vote, Kitty?
Baumstark.
Aye.
Dolan.
Aye.
Peggy.
Aye.
Corman.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
Jack Torowitz.
Aye.
Stefani.
Aye.
Motion carried. Now we'll go to consideration of other resolutions, discussion and action. We have the 23-12 GPA contract 2022 to 2027. That's hard to say. First off, I want to thank all the teams from both sides for getting this contract done. This is amazing, a nice 5-year contract. We really thank everyone for coming out, working together collaboratively to get this done. Can I ask for a motion and a second for approval?
So moved. Mike Corman. Second. Hagee.
May I have a roll call vote, Katie?
Baumstark.
Aye.
Dolan.
Aye.
Peggy.
Aye.
Corman.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
Jack Torowitz.
Aye.
Stefani.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next, we have the 23-13 update of travel expenses guidelines. Does anyone have any questions about this before? Can I have a motion and a second?
Actually, I had just one observation when I was looking at it. It seemed like one of the places, $65 per day for meals didn't get updated to 84 in one of the documents. I don't know, that was probably not intentional. It was the board policy one. Not the guidelines, but the board member compensation expenses, the 2125. I don't know, the 65 is still sitting there.
We'll get that changed for next month when
Thanks.
it's up for approval.
Thanks, Jim. Any other questions? Can I have a motion and a second to approve the resolution approving the revised travel reimbursement guidelines for board members and employees and revised board policy 2:125?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Can I have a roll call vote, Katie?
Dolan,
Aye.
Baumstark,
Aye.
Stefani,
Aye.
Corman,
Aye.
Sectorowitz,
Aye.
Peggy,
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye. Motion carries. Now we get to the good part. We have our discussion section. We have Matt here to take us through learning walks.
Yes, thank you so much. I'm going to have the crew come on up, join us at the presentation table here as we get things rolling, make yourselves comfortable. So before we begin, I want to thank actually our entire coaching crew. They were instrumental in bringing this idea forward, really sharing and collaborating with our principals, our instructional leaders, and so far this has been an amazing experience for our staff, our buildings, our children. It's really awesome. And just so you're aware too, to control the time factor, because we could have spoken for hours. I know how much everybody appreciates that, especially on YouTube, watching at home. But every building is actually, in the course of this full year, will be represented and engaged in this process we're about to describe to you this evening. So just super exciting, and it's something that's district-wide at every school and impacting with so many staff members and classrooms and our teaching and learning, which is the most important piece. So with that, as we always start with our strategic plan connection, and in this case, as all of our presentations, we want to bring forward the specific elements of the plan. I'm going to zero in actually on the educator growth and support. And I underline two areas, the positive climate, and I know it's going to come out in the amazing presenters we have tonight, and I'll have them introduce themselves as they speak and present. But the positivity around this concept of learning walks is just incredible. Really exciting, really authentic, as you're going to learn and experience and feel from the presenters and the presentation tonight. It's really meaningful. And it's relatively easy to zero in and impact the climate with this format. Normally, climate change is tricky. It's big organizations like a school with a lot of people and a lot of climate factors. And so I really wanted to point that feature out. And then the shared leadership. As you can see, teachers, staff, administrators, this collaborative group that starts from the planning stages, the actual engagement with classrooms and our children and our teachers and teaching, and then the follow-up and the planning. Much of this group is also rooted through the school improvement plans, which is an essential element of the living and breathing documentation and movement forward of our schools. And again, you're going to feel that and see that throughout the presentation this evening. So I'm going to move on here and get my notes organized and turn it over to Stephanie Shuffler.
Good evening. Thank you. So we have all put in so much work over the last few years in regards to the units of study and our work on implementing our various workshop models. And this was such a great opportunity to reflect on the celebrations of all of that hard work and to see what things across our classrooms and across buildings that we were doing really, really well. And so the intention when we were planning these walkthroughs was to think about what do we want to focus on individually at each of our buildings. What do we see as a natural next step in regards to evidence collection? So that might mean looking specifically at mini lesson implementation. That might mean looking at the workshop model in regards to independent work. That might mean how are students using their own knowledge to guide themselves through their independent work time. How are teachers conferring with students? And we really let staff drive what they thought was the next natural best step at their building. And then we really wanted it to be a positive lens when we went into classrooms. So they were very brief visits with opportunities to look for specific things. So perhaps you're looking through what students are doing, what's happening in the environment, what is the teacher doing, but it was meant in a non-judgmental evaluative lens and more from a lens of learning. And you could use this model not just in literacy, which I believe we all started with, but you could use this in a variety of content areas to collect information about instruction in your building. So in looking at our various buildings' targets or focuses, you could see that we each had a slightly different lens when walking through. And I won't read each of those to you, but you could see that some of them focus on independent work time. Some of those focus on engagement. Some of those focus on successfully engaging in the writing process. And so we each had different look-fors that we could then reflect on and decide what are our next steps then with this information that we now have that we didn't have before. And one really nice aspect was we left each room with lots of compliments. So we left each teacher with all of the amazing feedback about what they did well. So lots of feel-good moments throughout this process as well.
Hi, I'm Celine Stewart. I'm the Hoffman principal. I'm going to talk a little bit about the team and the process that the team went through. So for us, and it was probably slightly different at every school, but for us we used our academic SIP team, and that is administration and the literacy coach and some of our non-classroom staff, and then representatives from the different grade levels of homeroom teachers as well. So it was really a cross-section of all of the certified staff in the building and the representatives from every team. We generated our guiding question together, and then we spent some time on the day of the learning walks beforehand really digging into our guiding question and what it meant to us and what we might see as a result of looking through that lens, and agreed on how we were going to take data and what sort of observations we were going to write down. After we went to all the classrooms, 7 to 10 minutes in each classroom, we gathered up together and we shared all of our data in the most objective way and in an anonymized way. Just this is what we observed students doing. We looked for patterns overall and trends and started talking about those. And then the final part of the debrief was to come up with some observations that we could share with the whole school, and then some next steps that we agreed made sense. And for us, that ended up, we saw that things were going well, and we had some ways we wanted to dig deeper, which we'll get to in our reflection.
Good evening, I'm Patty Putz. I'm the principal at Hankton School. I get to talk about all the wonderful positive building impacts, and as a whole school, Celine, you kind of touched on a little bit about how there was a team that was pretty much chosen, or they volunteered to do the actual observations, but at the end of the day, the entire school community was affected by the learning walks. You mentioned something about the compliments. The compliments were posted on every teacher's classroom door for folks to read and reflect upon. I kind of feel like there's still some out there. And it was just such a great kind of way to just celebrate anything that's going on. The process itself, I think, strengthened the building relationships. We had an interdisciplinary team. So like you said, there were coaches, but there was also teachers. There were kindergarten teachers, first grade teachers, and there was a lot of this vertical articulation happening and horizontal articulation, and just a lot of collaboration around what's best for kids. Um, as part of the process during the debriefing, staff had to actually come to consensus on what are the biggest takeaways. So they actually had to sit there and discuss, out of all these wonderful things that we've observed, what are the things that we want to kind of share out with the rest of the staff? What are the most important things that we observed in this classroom? So let's hear from the teachers themselves who actually went through it.
Hi. Hello, I'm Jennifer Pinglitas. I'm the kindergarten EL teacher at Hinking. I really enjoyed watching the students progress. So seeing where they started in kindergarten, which is what I see all day long, and realizing the great leap they're taking in the first grade and then in the second grade. And that was just, it was startling to see the difference. And it was amazing to see how they learned to use strategies. When in kindergarten we're just presenting them, by first and second they're actually using them. They're collaborating with their peers, and they're just building that confidence.
Hi, my name is Caitlin McNally. I teach second grade dual language at Hinking. And basically echoing exactly what Jennifer and everybody else said too, is that it was such a great, rich experience. And I think one of the greatest parts about it is that the students were just as eager for us to be in there as we were to be in there too. You can tell that their little eyes would just light up when we came in the room, and they were like, is the teacher gonna come and see what's in my folder? Am I gonna be able to show off what I know in the classroom? So that was really great. And then again, as everybody else mentioned, just being able to see it in action was very rich. So obviously being in our own classrooms throughout the day, and then being able to go into our colleagues' classrooms and see the creativity and how unique everything has been, down to the flexible learning spaces, creativity with organizing materials, and then also looking at how everybody has scaffolded and differentiated for multilingual learners, diverse learners, and then the teacher materials as well. So overall, it was a great experience, and I'm really happy to be a part of it. And I'm glad to lead others as we progress this in other ways.
Hi, I'm Barry Shinsky. I'm the instructional literacy coach at Hinking. It's so nice to see all of you again. I haven't seen you all for such a while, so thank you for having us. It was just such an amazingly cool, very authentic experience to go through. And the cohesion and the collaboration that was developed from going through this process, it was so awesome to see all of the teachers and students connecting and all the hard work that they were doing, and the way that teachers were genuinely utilizing these flexible spaces, the flexible furniture that we have, and bringing it into the content areas, aligning it with how we can best support our students and how they can utilize the furniture to carry it over to a word wall, and just the creativity and the uniqueness that was developed from the way that they were learning was so awesome to see. And I'm so excited to be a part of this process with all of our staff and kind of with our K-5 group that's going through this together. And it was just really, 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 really neat to see. But like how Kate and Jennifer mentioned, that really seeing cross-grade level, seeing the scaffolding that was occurring, and then having these rich conversations. And the most amazing thing was then taking it back when the teachers are like, you know what, I saw this really cool strategy, I want to go back to my classroom and try it out. And then they're going and trying it out, and then connecting with the teachers in the classrooms that they saw. Like, that collaboration is so genuine and so rare, and it's so nice that we had the opportunity to lead some of this work. And to have all of our staff be a part of it was really, really cool. So we're happy to share it with you tonight.
And then we each came away with some reflections that we'll share. I know at Hoffman, this was a great way for our leadership team to have a snapshot of how far we've come in implementing the reading workshop. We saw workshop structures in place in every classroom, which was huge for us. And we really felt like, as a staff, we were ready to move to deeper levels of implementation and greater individualization in what we're doing now in reading. So that was a really positive takeaway for our team.
I'm Patrick Hoffman, the principal at Westbrook, and I think my main reflection, it's something new, something we've never done before. It's definitely when you have administrators and you have other colleagues coming into your classroom, sometimes creates just a little bit of anxiety. all these adults looking at it. But I think Matt really hit it on the head that it was a positive impact to that culture. We really looked at writing engagement, and to see a high level of engagement, kindergarten through second grade, across the building, and just seeing the supports that are in place, that teachers put in place, whether those are anchor charts or writing folders or just different tools. I think that there were so many small takeaways that had a large impact across the building. Again, just an overall positive experience, and when it's something new to have that large takeaway, I think that just helps in the success and kind of our next steps moving forward, which I'll talk about this later.
And it's just so exciting to see. Because like Stephanie said, that collaboration piece was something that we have been doing over the years, but now it's so much more succinct and strategic and purposeful, and you can see how excited students are in those processes.
That's exciting. That's really fun to hear about. Does anyone have any questions they'd like to add?
I have no question, but just an observation. Being a teacher myself, well, used to be anyway, I think the 7-10 minute time frame type thing, like, it's a really powerful way to do that because it's a very non-threatening. It almost felt like formative assessment versus summative assessment kind of a thing for you. And it's like a good thing to develop into the culture where you can back. So I think if you can keep doing it, I think that's how you sustain it as a cultural phenomenon instead of just a one-time.
And allow for more classes.
Yeah.
Smaller time periods.
That was what stuck out to me, is that structure of doing it that way, where you're just in and out versus watching the whole lesson.
I just have a selfish question because of all the new learning spaces that have been put into the building. And I know that you guys got to go in and out, observe a lot of new classrooms. Did you see anything within the literacy framework you were using that the new learning spaces have changed some models?
Yes. Well, we all did, but do you want to speak to that too?
Yeah, so we observed in the first grade classroom that there was one student who was attempting to write the word school, and she had used her arm to try to, sound it out. She was really still stuck on it. So she, all on her own, went over to a individual table and had brought all of her writing materials, pencils, her folder, and her paper, and she had wheeled the whole entire individual desk over to the word wall, and she created her own workstation. And so she pulled it right up next to the S, and then she was going down the line, and she found the word school, and she's like, oh, school. And then she wrote it down, and then when she was finished, she wheeled her individual desk back to the spot and went back to her desk, and then just kept going. So that was something in years prior that we didn't have those individual desks, and then the creativity for the students to think of that on her own of like, I need a workstation, and I need a workstation close to the word wall. So it was great, and I have now implemented that in my classroom. So I'm happy to learn from others. Yeah.
Sounds amazing.
All right. Sounds good. Lunchtime.
Scott, if I could just make a comment. I mean, I think it's awesome to see the kind of reinforcing that like learning doesn't stop when you finish school, but being educators, you also are learning from the students and from each other. And I just wanted to extend a kudos to all of you for being open to experimenting with it. It sounds like it was a great experiment, and looking forward to hearing more about the next one. So thank you.
Anyone else? Well, thanks so much for coming out. That was a great presentation, and I love seeing new stuff happening.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eliza.
Interfund transfers.
You guys want to stick around for this?
An aggressive pivot.
Yeah, we're going to move along to interfund transfers from O&M to capital projects, $12 million. Eric.
Thank you. We'd like to propose making a transfer from the O&M fund over to capital projects, an amount of $12 million. This is a result of, first of all, we're starting to get tax money, and we're repaying the loan we made to cover the bond and interest payment. Some of those dollars are starting to come into O&M, and this is just a great time to set those dollars aside. After the vote in March, there'll be one more transfer, and it'll be for the balance that we need once the board makes decisions about the final bids and things like that. That won't come for about another year, and that should be our final transfer to satisfy the construction work we're taking on.
Any questions for Eric on that?
Yeah, but just make sure I'm understanding. This is basically the accounting portion of using our fund balance toward the construction. You're just doing the accounting entry and move it to the right spot.
This is a nice and easy one. We don't have enough money in, say, O&M, and so there are some other rules when we transfer money from the ed fund. There will be a hearing, etc. But yeah, this is a nice and easy one. You're right. Just sort of an accounting.
From one bucket to
This is
another.
an if. This is a when, not if. Right.
Correct. We know this is part of that 21.2 million that the board already gave.
All right. Are we good? All right. Let's go to staffing and allocation.
Thank you. So the report that the board has describes the projected staffing needs at this point for the 23-24 school year. A couple of comparative notes. In March of last year, the board approved 436.9 full-time equivalent staff. We are projecting right now a need for 441.9. So that is an increase over where we were last March, but it's actually a slight decrease from where we are right now with actual. And I point that out just because we fully expect between now and not only March when the board will be asked to act, but also before the beginning of next school year, things do evolve. You may recall that in the last few years we've not been presenting a contingency, and rather than doing the contingency approach, we've just come forward when a need actually has arisen and add staff for whatever reason that may be, increased enrollment, changes in caseload, things of that nature. So again, the projected need right now for 23-24 on the certified side is 441.9 FTE, which is, all things being equal with little changes, looking fairly flat from this year's total certified staff. A couple of highlights embedded in there. We are continuing to invest for a second year in the, what we'll now be terming or titling student services specialists. We brought those forward last year, calling them MTSS specialists. Not only was that a mouthful, but we need to change the title for some grant funding that's attached to the way we support those positions. You may recall those were a repurposed FTE last year when we saw a decrease in our overall district-wide need for LBS 1 staffing, a decrease in students with IEPs. We did not see a decrease in need. As you would imagine, the pandemic brought out a lot of various academic and social emotional learning needs. So that repurposed FTE was meant to be investing in more proactive supports for students from our student services team. We maintain staff in those roles that have the LBS 1 licensure in the event that we do need to increase caseload and pivot. So those are very flexible roles, and thus far been a very successful approach. So we're maintaining those positions heading into next year and adding one at Hoffman where we had not last year. The numbers changed such that where we could warrant that over at Hoffman and doing it in a cost neutral basis because we are going down one more LBS 1 staff this year. So that stays a similar approach where we just repurpose that FTE. We do not see a need moving forward for the grade center teachers. We did add 2 back this year. You'll recall we had 8 a year ago. We now have 2. Next year we project 0. So that will be a sunsetting of those. What we thought was a 1-year role turned out to be for a couple folks in the second year. On the support staff side, we are projecting a need for 246.1 FTE. Again, that's fairly flat from where we're at currently. We fully expect that to evolve between now and March and into spring as annual reviews are held and needs are identified that aren't currently, fully fleshed out for a student whether they might need support in the classroom in the form of an educational associate, new students coming on, board of IEPs, other related services. So we expect to update the board on the student services support staff side as well. I'd happily entertain any questions that you may have. Those are just quick highlights of the report issue.
I guess I just have one quick question, Kevin. With all the projected enrollments kind of year over year, are we seeing any spikes or waves at any different grade level? The reason I ask is, how are we thinking about full year kindergarten kind of flowing through the system, if you will, or the implications of other population dynamics with our models or our assumptions, and for next year, knowing that this was the first year of change with full year kindergarten?
Yeah, well, the kindergarten question is a great one because when we met with the demographer, one of the questions I asked was regarding the first grade projections because the demographer is still projecting the influx of new first graders that we typically see. And I thought that was an interesting thing to predict given that we're assuming some of those kids came in kindergarten this year instead of first. What they said they've seen across the area that they service, Midwest primarily, in the first year of full day K implementation, some people kind of hold back and watch and don't necessarily come forward in the same speed. So we'll see. I'm kind of watching those first grade numbers closely to see if that does play out.
Or plus 100. It's like a 30% shift from kindergarten to first grade across the entire projection.
Yeah, and that would be typical of the previous year. Whether or not we see that again, we'll watch that.
Okay.
Middle school has been very tough to predict the last few years. We saw their prediction early on not align as well with some of the numbers. We saw shifts sort of between a T and spring. So we moved some FE over to spring to account for a larger rising fifth grade group than the demographers had predicted. So there's some things to watch closely in the middle. Overall, we're seeing, a year ago, they were talking about, and we talked about this earlier, some declining enrollment projections. Those are kind of coming back up toward a more moderate projection and a gradual increase over the next 5-year period, and then continuing into the 10-year prediction, which I would say those 5 years out are always something to put a major asterisk next to, because we just can't reliably look at 10 years out, but that 5-year chunk has become more of a increasing trend than they originally thought as of a year ago. No major swells at any one grade that we've observed, but we're going to be watching that kindergarten. Any other?
I don't know what's an anomaly and what's not. There's always this trend. In the 8th grade class today, there are more students that were there when those 8th graders were 7th graders, 6th graders, 5th graders. You can look at the chart; it's just a straight line back, and it always has been. But just looking at what we have in the kindergarten class here this year is 385, and we're projecting 42 in the 1st grade class, which we used to always get that big increase between kindergarten and 1st grade because a lot of kids would go to LPH or someplace that had an all-day kindergarten. But we have that now. That really stuck out as to James's point. I mean, that seems to stand out oddity. Like, any insight on why they're expecting such an increase for that one age group?
Yeah, just as I said, they weren't ready to predict that the influx that we have typically seen in first is going away. Okay. After 1 year of implementation. I'm myself watching that closely because I'm a little skeptical about that, so I've already been working with the principals on a hiring timeline that might be a little bit slower given how we'll see the trend play out early in registration. We usually see those first, not always, some come in the summer, but we see those 1st grade families come in fairly early in the process if they're new to us, new to the district. So if we have vacancies in first in some of the buildings, we may not be rushing to fill those at the earliest point, like say spring break timing, and instead look to be a little bit more backed by the data from the enrollment.
Right, which I know you had covered before.
No.
Repeat that again. But, we've always been an outlier, District 34 in Cook County, in that our enrollment has gone up, even to other feeder districts, to 225, which is why we had to do all this work with all-day kindergarten, where they had the space. We did, but it does seem odd that the demographer would not have seen this in lots of other districts where they quit, they switched from half-day to all-day. But,
You're asking the same question we asked over the last couple. We'll see how that develops.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Any other questions? All right, let's move on to the student photography contract renewal.
And this is pretty straightforward. This is a 1-year extension since the district took on the contract with Color Portraits. They've been in the district for decades now. I'm not even sure how long, but this is just a 1-year renewal for them for photography services for next year.
Any questions on the?
I guess I just had one question.
Yeah, go ahead.
They don't just do like picture day, they do other photography services for the district as like a
Team.
exclusive photographer, like some of the things here, any marketing, like do they do any of those types of photography or no?
No.
Okay.
No.
This is just
They
for the
may do it, but we don't use them.
Okay. So this is just the contract for like student photos.
Exactly.
Okay.
And they've kept their prices flat for 1 more year.
Any more questions about the photography contract? All right. We'll move along to our audience comment sections. Melanie, do we have any audience comments? Okay. This is a second opportunity for audience comment. Anyone wishing to address the board can submit a comment card available at the check-in table and give it to communications specialist Melanie. The communications specialist will call community members who submit cards forward, and they'll be asked to introduce themselves and describe their relationship with the district. Please keep your comments at 3 minutes or less, and please know that the board will be taking notes, but we will be in listening mode only at this time, and an appropriate response will be given in a timely manner. We also ask that you submit one comment per opportunity. Melanie, who is it? Thank you.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. My name is Michael Tarkowski. I'm a Hoffman third grader Hoffman, and I just actually have kind of two questions. One is just because today is my son's birthday, and I'd like to know why the district has a rule regarding parent contact list. I have run, since my son has been in kindergarten at Hinking, I have run into excuse after excuse about why parents of my son's class, they cannot provide me with a contact list of parents. I'm just going to read my comment. But I'd just like to know why getting a class parent contact list is so hard. I've been trying since kindergarten to get a voluntary list of parents' cell phones, emails, so that it's easy to set up play dates, birthday parties with my son's friends. I'm a stay-at-home dad, but I used to work in a law firm, so I'm very familiar with HIPAA. I don't see that this a contact list of my son's friends in his class should be equated with medical or client information that needs to be protected. My son had, and it was basically, he was making invitations to his friends, because I don't have any idea who his friends' parents are to contact. His friends had lost that, if they had lost that invitation, which most of them probably, which they did, I don't have a way of contacting anybody, and it was just a matter of, we happened to run into one of his friends at Mariano's, and I was able to get that contact information from that parent. So basically he had one friend show up to his birthday party. And so I just want to know why that is so difficult. And it can be voluntary. If a parent in the class does not want to participate because they feel that they don't want someone showing up at their doorsteps, that's fine. But I do wish that there was a opportunity for parents to be able to contact each other beyond what I see as a kind of golf outing every now and then. The district needs to seriously consider sending out a communication telling parents that there is a way to send their contact information voluntarily. I don't think something is right when a third grader basically has one friend come to his party, and I don't have a way to. I'm sure that he's would have had 4 or 5 friends. I didn't want 50 people, but I'm sure that he would have had more people if I had a chance to contact the parents and say, we're having a pizza party between these 2 hours. You're more than welcome to come. So basically, I just would like the board to kind of figure out some kind of way to communicate with the schools to say they should come up with a way for parents to have a contact list. Secondly, I think that District 34 is kind of doing a disservice to Anglophone students. One, I noticed at Hanking that there was a specific classroom for Spanish-speaking children to learn English. I felt that there should have been an opportunity for Anglophone students to have a opportunity to learn a foreign language beginning K through 2, instead of having it wait till it's a high school student as an elective. I think the fact that the district sends out communications in multiple languages shows that we are no longer living in an Anglophone only society, and that it would be very conducive to offering foreign language curriculum for students who are going to be picking up languages much more easily than when they wait to be in high school. I think that they're kind of robbing the kids of who are only Anglophone only students, because there are some students who are Mongolian or Korean or Spanish who have those languages spoken at home, and they're able to then exercise their English skills at school with their friends, et cetera, but they're getting the second language at home. And I think that students that have only English at home and only English at school are being robbed of that opportunity. To me, it seems counterintuitive to learning because we no longer live in a world where one language is enough. And the very fact that the invitation and communication from this district was in so many different languages shows that learning a second language is a necessity. So I would appreciate some consideration of how they could institute a second foreign or one foreign language, be it whatever, Spanish or Korean or whatever it is, to students that are only English speaking. Thank you so much, and I appreciate the time.
Thank you. Thanks for your comments. Do we have any other comments? We'll move along to the report section. I have the number 1 FOIA report, the number 2 True North Board meeting report, the number 3 construction change order report, number 4 referendum expense report, the number 5 the monthly budget report, number 6 current financial projections, and number 7 the following meeting agenda. Are any questions on any reports?
I have a couple comments about report 1. If anybody looked at it, saw that we adopted the new strategic plan. The 3 comments. The second, we also read the report and saw that there's significant usage changes that are going to be happening in the co-op, which is my 3rd point. That might impact some of the construction plans. So phase 2 construction, as Eric pointed out at the end of our last meeting, that we were going to discuss tonight, is for now on hold because phase 2 is on. Phase 1, the costs went up just like our construction costs, but they are North is able to cover the cost out of fund balance. So nothing to really discuss on at our board level, but we'll be, I'm sure, coming back to phase 2, and at that point we can discuss it. Do you have anything to add?
Thank you, Natalie. Any other comments on the report? All right, I'll move along to other business. Is there any other business?
I just have a question.
Sure.
Dr. Alexander, can you just confirm what grade do we start foreign languages? D34. Matt. Sorry, my fault. Yeah. Yes. Is it 6th?
For general, 6th grade, right? Different than language.
No, I know. I just want, but we started at middle
6th
school.
grade,
And I'm sorry about the name. I had a different
He called you a doc.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're actually like a super alter egos.
All right, if that's enough, then I'll move along to the adjournment. Can I have a motion and a second to adjourn the meeting?
We'll move.
Second.
A roll call vote. All those in favor?
Aye.